Well, hi there. Coming to you from, well, not beyond the grave yet, but teetering on the brink. No, it's just a little gallows here. I haven't been given a terminal illness yet, but it sure feels like I'm dying. And I've had to ego death enough times to know what dying feels like. Like that hardcore, you're kicking, screaming, fucking. I've never actually pissed myself during, like, a high acid dose ego death induced experience. I've been around people who have, but where you're kicking, screaming, clawing, just no, I got to do anything to hold on to this one. Like that kind of ego death, not like DMT or ketamine, where it's like, boop, the ego's gone. If you just, allow yourself to have that happen, because it's going to happen whether you like it or not if you choose to do these substances. So if you don't like that kind of thing, don't do them. Me personally, I've essentially been taking a break from most things. I still smoke cigarettes heavily, which is probably the worst thing for me now, but it is a tough habit to break, especially as a former fucking user of hard drugs, because especially like mentholated cigarettes, they really do a good job of hitting essentially like every little pleasure center that's on your taste buds. My old boss told me that if it wasn't for menthol cigarettes, he wouldn't have gotten through treatment. But that being said, it doesn't seem like treatment did a lot for him. But so other than just smoking a ton of pot and doing ketamine every now and then, because it is just a very good analgesic for people with nerve pain. Some people who call my use excessive, and that's all within their right. I don't intend to use it for the rest of my life if I am actually granted something that isn't a death sentence. Once I get the fucking information on my x-rays and my fucking blood samples and all that fun fucking stuff, a lot of this is, if you keep up with my channel, a lot of this is accentuated by the benzo withdrawal symptoms. And let me tell you, folks, I rarely was the type to be afraid, be very afraid of these drugs, and don't fucking do them, unless you really absolutely have to, or given one in a hospital or whatever. For example, the most traumatic death I experienced in my life, which was really felt like the only extended family member I really connected with, and under circumstances where drawing anything resembling a conclusion was, and allowing people to have closure was just, not happening, because unfortunately, in my opinion, very mysterious circumstances, but we were all in shock on our way back, me, her mom, her sister, and my mom gave us all an Ativan 2 milligram, and in that situation, I think that kept us from doing anything bad. I do believe that I did end up spiraling into using fucking heroin again at that time, but I wouldn't blame the Ativan for that. But with that being fucking said, it doesn't take much to get you hooked. It just takes fucking chronic use. And each time you get addicted, it gets harder and harder to get off of each respective time. You have to do a taper. Because if you don't taper it, you can die from the withdrawal symptoms. And with the dose that I'm on, yeah, it would be fine or a sign if I miss one of the fucking 2 doses I have to take during the day. With that being said though, other than cannabis, CBD, and ketamine, and high amounts of nicotine, I probably would have fucking, like, not even joking, probably would have fucking, I don't know, found some way to make my physical body explode. But, you know, I bring that up because that is, you know, obviously I would be a fool to say that has nothing to do with what I'm experiencing. At the same time, this is my third fucking benzo taper. Back in the day when I wasn't doing heroin, I was doing benzos. I was also prescribed very high doses of benzos, so, you know, part of that's my fault, part of that is the fault of the system that knew how juvenile my mindset was. Or that's more like it. And we're just like, well, fuck it, whatever. You know, maybe it's better off if he fucking kills himself. Which, you know, I actually, now as a pessimist, I'm a misanthrope. Fuck, I sound retarded, I'm sorry. As a misanthrope, proud misanthrope, humanity is pretty shitty. I think you'd be hard pressed in convincing me otherwise. And I'm not saying I'm a saint by any stretch. Oh no. But at the same time, I'm not the worst person on the planet either. But I still have to take accountability. And I still have to, you know, acknowledge the respective ways in which I sublimate my existence. Now, I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I'm just gonna catch you up a little bit on my situation, and then I'm gonna read you what is actually, like, legit one of the most terrifying stories I've ever fucking encountered. I just need to fucking smoke some weed first and have a morning cigarillo. Yeah, these things are fucking amazing. If you're over 18, it's 18 in Canada, and I think it's 21 in the States. I'm fair with the States fucking. I think you are, you know, mature enough to make that decision at 18, and most people make that decision before they're 18. That's pretty much everyone I knew. So, yeah, even though they weren't allowed, where there's wealth, there's a way. You know what they say. Black Devil. These are from the Netherlands. They're very, very fucking pretty. It tastes like hot chocolate. They can only be sold in Japan because of the flavoring. They can only sell, like, the bland, unflavored ones in the Netherlands, and I think to the rest of the world. But yeah, you can see the cursive gold Black Devil. Yeah, kind of. My camera's not really focusing, but it's very pretty. It's not a clove cigarette, contrary to what you may, you know, free associate in your head when you see a black cigarette. I mean, I kind of only knew Dijon Blacks growing up, which are fucking illegal now. Like, you can't buy clove cigarettes in the States. It's supposed to be the same deal, but like, they apparently got around it by selling them as cigarillos, which are just, you know, as the name kind of implies, related to cigars. Where did I put my shmee? Where's my shmee? But yeah, the difference in content today is I just want to smoke a couple joints, have a cigarillo. It's pipe tobacco, so I'm mostly just smoking it and not inhaling it. And this justification will later come up, so I can probably talk myself into having another cigarette. Another tobacco stick, I guess, because it's pipe tobacco, as I said. I don't have enough room behind my ear to fit fucking 2 joints and 2 fucking. Oh, I'm so fucking scattered today. Where did you go? Oh, in my pocket. Tally ho! Okay, let's fucking get started. But what I want to do is, I want to, just, yeah, shoot the shit for a bit, maybe give you a little context going into this, but, I'm going to read you a story. I am going to read you a very terrifying story, and it is, guess who, Thomas Ligotti, that's who. If you watched my content, preferably you've watched not just the drug-related content, but if you've only watched the drug-related content, I do understand, because I did kind of typecast myself as that person. But I'm most proud of the series I did on pessimism, drawing predominantly from Thomas Ligotti's fucking, like, magnum opus. Actually it's his only non-fiction book, so yeah, I guess just by default it's his magnum opus, but I'm not even gonna like include the fiction there, because fiction and non-fiction are very different in my opinion. But yeah, the book Conspiracy Against the Human Race. I've read a lot about pessimism, and a lot of it is frankly just like, it hits some notes that resonate with me, but for the most part, I kind of think that it's like really tailored to the philosopher, which I mean obviously, but you know, tailored to what they want to get out of a philosophical belief. I don't want to get anything except for truth out of a philosophical belief. And as raw as the truths may be with pessimism, I think they are not true. And I think they must, you know, by virtue of the like very startling questions that they arise that we don't ask ourselves as much as maybe we should. Oh, there's a crow shambling around. Fuck, they're dying out here, man, with this heat. I'm fucking, you know, filling up their water dishes like 7-8 times a day. Yeah, pessimism is like, it was the type of philosophy that like really clicked with me, because it made me not just start but never stop questioning the difference between like me, if there even is a me. You know, the notion of self is contradictory, like, you know, it's kind of like a self requires a self within it. Some might just say, oh, that's the soul. That's not good enough for me, I'm sorry. You know, there's selves we have to do other things that are not just the ego. You know, some people just think the ego is about putting masks on for other people. No, those are things like we largely, you know, do on some level that's centered in, you know, our own decisions, or at least, you know, operating under the assumption that our decisions are in fact like us being able to like freely exercise, I guess to varying degrees based on the situation. If you're at work, you probably don't have that much freedom, but you know, if you're purely fucking free, living in the forest, in a commune, whatever, like, you know, how do you know that, you know, that notion of, you know, being free in nature isn't just something that is tailored to you because of your conditioning, both hereditary conditioning and just you know, like operative conditioning, you know, as it's more commonly known, classical conditioning. So, you know, basically the reason why if someone dangles like a fucking Xbox fucking 5 or whatever the new ones are, like at the end of oh, if you do really well on your report cards, you get all A's, you'll get this Xbox. You know, they're typically like they do better. You know, this is true for my generation. I didn't get fucking anything lofty like an Xbox. It was like, if you got an A, you got $20 if you got a B, you got 10, anything else, nothing. Which still actually did motivate me. But you know, the flip side is, you know, there's consequence if you don't do what you're supposed to do, even if that consequence is just by virtue of not getting the reward. That sounds kind of convoluted, but I mean, just think about it for a second. If you expect to do really well at something and you don't, you're disappointed in yourself, and you know, you're maybe second guessing your capacity to do this, that, and the other. But you know, that is just, in my opinion, not the healthiest way to cultivate a person. But the thing is, I don't even know if I believe in the notion of self. I mean, I don't think it matters because it still feels very real. I think I've expressed this comparison before, but like when I think of stuff like the universe being a simulation, which sometimes it's like, holy fuck, this thing happened, which is so absurd, like that could only happen in a simulation, you know? Like, fuck, I hate these fucking papers. But anyways, I've been doing a lot of questioning as to, like, you know, I've always been leery of the institution of marriage, for example. I think, you know, using a binding contract to essentially promote like this like self-aggrandizing event where people come and like worship the romance that you have, like, which, you know, if they really did, you think they would compliment you as like a couple or whatever more often. It would just like show it in general as opposed to, you know, a celebration having to do that. And I just think it's like kind of absurd and antiquated. I mean, like, I do maintain that I believe everyone should have the right to get married. If you want to do that, sure, be my fucking guest. But like, you know, my last partner, who I was pretty convinced I was gonna share the rest of my life with. It was like, it felt like it was a, you know, fucking like once in a fucking trillion lifetime fucking connection with this person who's so different than me, but like our circumstances and our kind of personality quirks and everything just made it like so we were very compatible, which made the crushing fucking, like, that relationship ended with a whimper as opposed to a bang. Put it that way, it just was for stupid reasons. But you know, we had the whole discussion of like, you know, we don't want kids for one, ever. You know, I've had that belief since I was a kid, and I've never changed it. She was the same way. And we thought, you know, why do people get married with the enforcement of a contract? And the contract is a lot of the time what perpetuates, you know, all the bad parts of a failing marriage, keeping it alive for the kids, even if you're at each other's throats constantly, like even literally speaking, you know, and just like, I'm not a gambling man. I gambled once in my life, won $60, knew that would be the most the machine gave me before it started taking my money, so I fucking cashed out, and I was $60 fucking richer, and I was happy. But yeah, you have better odds with roulette than with marriage. This is probably a super archaic number that or stat that I'm citing, but you know, the whole like 60% of marriages end in divorce. That was a long time ago. So as people have become less religious, like that number has gone up. And you know, questioning stuff like that, which I have for a long fucking time, and then reading stuff like Thomas Ligotti's A Conspiracy Against the Human Race, and realizing how much of tradition and like routine practices we carry out on a day-to-day basis are like genuine, are just relics of the past that are meant to kind of shape us into having this illusion of connection, this illusion to others, the world around you, to nature, which fucking, I'm pretty sure if anything, nature fucking hates us and is sick of our shit. I disagree with Thomas Ligotti on nature, where he's like, fuck nature, nature was the one who made us conscious, and now we have to be aware of our suffering, so fucking let's nuke nature from outer space and blow our brains out. It sounds like kind of epic, but I mean, I think the world would probably benefit from just no humans on it, but I wouldn't take out nature too. I think that's throwing the baby out with the proverbial bathwater, But anyways, so going back to marriage, I'm just using this as a metaphor for how I've been, kind of trying to construct an analysis for most things in life that always struck me as like a little like, why do we do that? What role is this like serving for us at the end of the day? Also, I'm not gonna bring up because I don't want to completely bore you guys and nerdgasm, because I already made a video on Jack Parsons and how I believe I'm not like legitimately connected to him on a spiritual level. He just, I don't know, as I've explained with the notion of reality tunnels and stuff like that, I see a lot of qualities in him that I see in myself, so resonate on that level anyways. He was, by virtue of being a Thelemite, is that how you'd pronounce it? Practicer of Thelema, the Crowleyan sex magic, fucking narcotic based kind of religion. I don't know, I think it's cooler than most religions. Parsons wrote a lot of really, really good political, philosophical essays, which I haven't been able to find fucking anywhere, except online. I hate reading off of the screen. But keep it down, Crow. Keep it down. Parsons was, after starting his Masonic Lodge is basically a front, but I think, it's not a conspiracy theory to say the Masons and the occult have been, intertwined. It's like most, Masons are predominantly the engineers of history. Most science has a cult background to it. Most common metaphor I use, or example I use for this, is chemistry kind of being a result of the whole alchemical pursuit of the philosopher's stone, which is absurd by today's standards. These guys are trying to pull gold out of piss, because it's yellow, so it must have gold in it, right? We greedy fucking white people, we love gold. But anyways, yeah, Parsons, he wrote after kind of having the idea of being married and all this shit erode in his head, because part of being a practicer of Thelema was essentially orgies, a lot of orgies, and the notion was that sex magic, basically by giving women particularly orgasms, which, hey, I'm all for that, all fucking for female orgasms. Anyone who is against me can seriously fuck off. If you're not into women, that's fine, but I think the world would be a better place for more female orgasms. I'm just saying. consensual, of course. I mean, I think that it would have to be consensual for them to. I don't know the biology. I'm not even gonna say anymore because I feel like I'm gonna say something stupid. But yeah, so they would like, yeah, eat out a chick, and then she would, and then out into the stars their intention would go, seated in the cosmos, and come back and manifest in weird ways. You know, whether that has credence to it, I don't know so much, but what it did lead to was Jack Parsons starting to see how just not only marriages but relationships were almost like misogynistic, like you know, hetero relationships were almost misogynistic, especially for his time, which was, you know, 30s, 40s, where, you know, women were just told to be housewives and, you know, become wine moms, basically. So this is, you know, far truer back then than now, but that there, you know, there was an uneven playing field, and that to abolish that, you would essentially have to abolish the idea of relationships, the reason why we have relationships, or well, explore the reason why we have relationships a bit more. And, you know, if I'm recalling correctly and not just thinking on my own thoughts that were adjunct to what I read, the brief stuff I was able to find Parsons write, which is like by far the most agreeable libertarian philosophy in my books. Most libertarians are just like very two-faced, and use the name as kind of a front for something else. But anyways, by essentially being poly, and maintaining a relationship at the same time, like that was like a true test, not just like the example of like me and my girlfriend just, staying together without, you know, something like a literal band forcing us together, would be the true test. And, you know, I don't know how law works outside of Canada, like when it comes to minutia, but I know in Canada, and I'm pretty sure it's a similar deal in the States, you're essentially by default, I think after 5 years, considered like common law husband-wife, which is inconsequential, and that I don't think anyone suffers from that at the end of the day. I think actually people get tax breaks. I don't know if that's true for all cases. Honestly, you know, someone was 3 years, so I can't speak empirically on that front. But yeah, like being poly is for like friends I know who are like people who are like full on, yeah, stop bitching about, you know, your recent breakup because that woman is not your fucking property. You know, these people who, you know, not just talk the talk but walk the walk and lived like a poly lifestyle, I see them still, you know, having broken hearts when the person they were predominantly with ends up going off with someone else, says, you know, I don't love you anymore, sort of thing. Like, that still hurts. I think it's hard to fucking deny that. I think you'd have to be like a sociopath to deny that, being told someone you've loved for a long time and put a lot of, you know, invested a lot of not just faith, time, intention, so on and so forth into, but, you know, material fucking, you know, just anything from buying them presents to, you know, sharing your drugs with them all night. Both can be very expensive. Which, oh yeah, by the way, fucking one of my biggest pet peeves are people who, like, if you break out a bag of coke at a party, which, by the way, fucking, I haven't partied in a fucking long time. Like, if I go to parties, I just fucking sit in the smoking pit, smoke weed, and whoever comes by, I fucking talk to. But that being said, I've done a lot of cocaine at parties before, and I fucking hate every time you fucking open one up, like a little fucking half-gram baggie or whatever. take something like this fucking spoon, which I've never used actually, but I like it, because it's kind of like the medical symbol. It's stupid. It's like, someone just like, hey, get up, and I was like, no, fuck off. This shit cost me like fucking $60. Buy your own shit, like, but they're fucking like fiending out, and they just won't leave you the fuck alone. Like, ugh, such pet peeve. But I digress, as I often do. Like with Parsons, it was interesting because what happened in his life was he actually ended up being in a relationship with his wife's younger sister, which you may think, ugh, but if the events of Strange Angel are in any way true, they were all kind of sharing partners anyways, and she kind of had her own partner. After the events of Strange Angel, the television kind of, I want to call it like a theatric biopic, because it's obviously has some embellishments that are like sort of like verging on the supernatural, but it's not unfaithful to who he was as a person. Ow, fuck. Fucking got hot really fucking fast. I'm not fucking stoned now, so I'm gonna smoke more weed. But I just like chatting. What can I say? Even if it takes me fucking 30 minutes to get to my fucking point. But speaking of, I think, yeah, like, we have sort of, maybe we have an open mind being poly. I certainly have come to the point where because I've had a lot of like serious relationships, but they've never ended well, and like it's almost like they were worse for both of us than, you know, like just the cons outweighed the pros, we'll put it that way, for the most part. Do I regret them? I don't think it's productive to regret them, because it's just like further torturing yourself for something you can't change, right? I think that energy is better spent trying to learn from what potential mistakes may it be on both ends, but particularly on my own end, or, you know, if you're considering this your own end. Wow, that fucking thing really gave me a good fucking burn, dude. I'm gonna have to run this under some cold water. I think that, you know, not only was there a biological imperative to have relationships back in the day, you know, 1800s fucking in the West, the majority of the fucking kids would die. Like, even in Ireland in like the 1940s, is like fucking everyone would have like 12 kids because maybe 2 would make it. But the thing is, lifespans are longer than they've ever been. No one needs to procreate like that, and I get it. It's like, from a functionalist perspective, that is in large part like their evolutionary sort of impulses. Like, I noticed in my area, where I joke all the time, but this is almost like kind of true, everyone has either a dog or a baby, and oftentimes both, and it seems like another one every single fucking year, and it's like, is that necessary? Like, can't you just like focus? You know, I live in a pretty well-off area, which I'm, you know, I'm lucky to. So otherwise, I'd be in like government housing and probably be dead by now. Yeah, just like the rates at which people procreate are ridiculous, and like what is, if you were to actually like get them to break down what the motivation is, like, it would probably be something like, oh well, like, really at the end of the day, to be raw and how like honest I am about like what's really driving things, even if I don't admit this to myself. Like, I believe this is probably true because there's a lot of rich white people around me, and I grew up around a lot of rich Asian families, and they would have a lot of kids because, like, especially from people from China, like, their government was like directly encouraging them to tribalistically outfuck the other groups, which is not how we come to a uniform society where like people are functioning in agreement with one another and like not like, you know, in a detrimental, selfish way like society seems to be kind of doing for the most part. Yeah, and like my parents were super wise to just have me because like they knew that well, okay, maybe they weren't, because like I inherited all the fucking bad like chronic shit in my family. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even fucking kidding. Like alcoholism, fucking treatment-resistant nature, depressive disorder. Not alcoholism for me, but you know, benzos do the same thing as alcohol pretty much, except more cleanly and you know, without a hangover. But getting hooked on them and getting off of them is, it's very easy to get on, it's very hard to get off, put it that way. So like, you know, I got those, and it's like some other shit I believe, but you know, I'm not gonna get into all of that. But yeah, like I think if you were to get just going back to, you know, the people around here, so like just paint a picture, mostly middle-aged white families that must make about 6 figures a year. If they can afford to, you know, travel most of the year and live in fucking other countries and shit while their places stay vacant, and consequently the fucking price of rent, leasing homes, stuff goes up and up and up and up. We've had a housing crisis here for a long fucking time. But yeah, I think they would have a similar answer to, like, you know, the like very nationalistic Chinese families. Like, it would probably be, we're wealthy, we're smart, we can afford to give our kids a good education and a good gene. So it comes down to just like tribal behavior. And the thing is, like you know, we keep seeming to forget this, but we are fucking animals at the end of the day. Like, there's no denying that. We're just animals who fucking 2001 Space Odyssey learned how to take a bone and fucking smack another fucking ape's fucking skull with it. And you know, like how Stanley Kubrick jump cuts from that to space travel, where humanity is birthing AI into existence, which as a pessimist I think is a terrible fucking idea, because consciousness is, if you're a pessimist, consciousness is already a bad thing. But you know, there's many other arguments you make for why AI is bad. You try to convince me otherwise, but I mean, I don't know much about how it works. I just know I'm not a fan from the research I've done, and like I am very fucking wary of information. I try to compare and contrast. I think everyone should, like, not just like one news agency, but like, okay, like where do they fall on the, you know, political spectrum? You know, I'm not even gonna say compass, because that would be too hard to fucking peg down when you have companies that are flim-flamming, like from one side of like left to right, left to right, left, right, left, right. Yeah, I find like we have this one difference from animals. This is what Thomas Ligotti says too. This is what Peter Waffle Safra says. We have one difference, and that's, even William James says this, that's consciousness. And I may sound like I'm contradicting myself here, but let me make it perfectly clear. I do not believe. I also reserve the possibility that I'm wrong on this. Wasp, fuck off. If a wasp is fucking with you, if you're like fucking smoker, fucking blow cloud smoke at it, it'll like cause its internal like magnetic system they use for navigation. Like this is kind of thought to be like killing the bees right now. Like, or no, it was for a while. I think they believe there's another reason that's more conducive, but I think this is still a conducive reason. Nicotine-based pesticides, they get on like bees have this. Most flying creatures do. Birds, where like they have these like internal magnetic systems that are kind of like, I guess, like a GPS, if you will, and they allow them to find their way back to home, the hive, you know. But you know, a lot of them weren't, so they're thinking it was nicotine that was getting stuck to their wings, and as a result, it was scrambling that system, so their colonies were collapsing. That's what's called colony collapse disorder, because they couldn't make it back to the hive. And you know, hives are like full on like how Marx would like if humans could do what beehives do, like Marx would be like he'd probably be having a wet dream in his fucking coffin. Sorry for that disgusting image, but I have a fucking foul sense of humor, so. Anyways, what was I saying? Now I'm fucking stoned. It's like fucking 9 in the morning. I mean, you gotta get your day started off right. But yeah, a lot of stuff that is like really, when you boil it down, tribalism at the end of the day. You know, politics, so like even supporting like animal rights or like pro-life, or like, you know, like a lot of these people become ride or fucking die. They're like, wasp, don't fucking do it. Don't you fucking do it. I fucking hate fucking getting stung by these fuckers. You little shit are fucking ungrateful. You've been fucking, goddamn, this thing's fucking after me. Okay, I'm gonna scramble it. Like watch this. This does fucking work. This does fucking work. This ungrateful bastard drinking my fucking water I put out for the crows, not for hornets and wasps. Now it's trying to trying to make me get God. Fucking hate their stings, man. Like, I fucking had a friend who was like really allergic to wasps as a kid, and he stepped on a wasp hive. Yeah, I think that made it fuck off like immediately. I hope. And so like I kind of like I actually don't even really notice when I get stung most of the time, but I kind of have a PTSD response to them, because yeah, this friend, he was allergic to everything but soap and water, you know. He was allergic to like at least 24 things, like eggs, milk, all that shit. Now I'm distracted. I might as well fucking give you this anecdote because it's crazy. We were playing, I believe, Capture the Flag. You know, like not an official game or anything, but like we were just kids in a forest out by this massive university, or in the university grounds. And he stepped. I saw this fucking happen. Oh, it was manhunt. Yeah, I was chasing him because I was gonna tackle him. Yeah, we were pretty fucking like savage as kids. Just the shit we did for fun blows my mind to this day. Like, oh, that ice fucking chunk felt kind of cool bouncing off my head. I'm gonna bounce one off. Yeah. I stepped on the fucking hive. I heard the crack. I saw his foot go down, and he immediately, and he's fucking got like his whole fucking leg is covered, and then like there's like Candyman shit, except, you know, substitute wasps for bees, which I have no problem with bees whatsoever. You know, they will only attack you as like final fucking like there's I'm gonna die regardless of what I do, so I might as well give you a little bit of a fuck you too, because they're kind of kamikazing themselves, or more aptly, I guess, seppukuing themselves to the point where they're ripping their guts out, because when a bee stinger comes out, it fucking rips their guts out and they die. It's like terrible fucking defense mechanism, but it's probably, actually in a weird way, it's probably good, because it makes them less of a threat to you know, things that may want to poach them, like birds or whatever, but the stinger's still there, and a bird doesn't want to swallow that, you know. I'm not a fucking I'm not Steve, what's his name, the guy that fucking who would wrestle crocs and fucking shit, you know, the animal man or whatever, fucking, who ended up dying because of a fucking stingray. It was like he was diving, or not even diving, yeah, snorkel on, I think. Steve Irwin. If you remember, you remember. But anyways, I'm fucking straying from the story. So, Buddy fucking stepped on these things, and yeah, he was covered like something you see in a movie. One leg was fully covered. We were wearing shorts because it's summer, fucking hot. Which, by the way, it's been a fucking incredibly hot summer. Like, I'm sorry, if you don't believe in global warming, I feel like I have nothing to say to you. I just, like, all I have to do is, like, look up, look around, and be like, was it hotter than last summer? Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Was it hotter than the summer before that? Oh, definitely. Oh, okay, is that just like weather trends? Yeah, totally, that's what it is, man. It happens every 2,000 years. Okay. Anyways, since my friend was allergic, he went into anaphylactic shock. I was fighting him off because, like, I knew he could die as a result of this. Even though, like a lot of people think it's just bee stings that do that. No, I've seen like a classmate have to get picked up by an ambulance, because EpiPens only will help you for about 10 minutes, so enough time for the paramedics to get there. That's a really important thing that they don't teach a lot of people when it comes to administering EpiPens. Potentially deadly fucking consequence of just, you know, missing information. But anyways, I was swatting these things away, so getting stung all over the place myself. But I knew I wouldn't die, it would just really fucking hurt. So, adrenaline pumping, fucking, I get him out of there, and he's fucking swollen, like, he is ballooning up, bloating and all this shit, and, yeah, like, fucking, he fucking barely made it. Like I thought I was, like gonna have to give him last rites or something, as, you know, as a kid, because I was still scared of the notion of fucking going to hell and all that, because, like, his throat was closing up, and all I could do was just comfort him as best I could. So, like, yeah, I got fucking really fucking freaked out when a wasp goes after me, even though I know it's illogical. And this actually kind of ties into pessimism, because, like, think of like most phobias. What are they based off of? Why do we find spiders creepy, for example? Why? It's kind of a weird thing to find creepy. It's because some of them, emphasis on some, like the vast majority of spiders today anyways, depending on where you live obviously, but in, you know, places like Canada, are not gonna, like, hurt you. You know, contrary to what people say, like I had a brown recluse fucking crawl on my nutsack when I was like 12. It scared the shit out of me, but didn't bite me, because they, like bees, will only bite you as a sort of last line of defense. That's why most people get bit by brown recluses if it's in a towel, and I guess you're just not looking at your towel, and you just fucking go like that, and it's like getting crushed and shit. So it's like, yeah, fuck you too. You know, it's a fear that's overblown. I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't find spiders creepy. Does that mean I hate them? No, not at all. We really fucking need spiders in this world, man. Like the amount of insects, like pests, like fucking flies, ants, all that shit that'd be present without spiders is kind of mind-blowing, actually. But the thing is, like, I think phobias in a way are, like, if you subscribe to the idea of epigenetics, which I do, which is essentially like, it's like behavior that's not quite like a disorder, but it's behavior that, you know, an instant of, say, trauma incited in an individual. Like, you see this in survivors of the Holocaust or various famines, like the Finnish famine, you know, Mao's fucking famine, doing the same thing that fucking Stalin's guy did. Yes, we'll make the plants fucking comrades. We'll plant them right beside each other so it's like they're holding hands, except Mao was like, and then we'll march over them in unison. And just make all the farm workers factory workers for some reason. Like, people who survive those, their kids tend, and this is true, I've written a paper on it, fucking, that got a very good grade when I was in psychology. University, I mean, I frankly think this place was like too shoddily run to even like come anywhere near the prestige of the title of university, but nevertheless it still was a university. Why epigenetics happens, like, so just anyways to finish that example, the kids, they, despite their parents like really being like, okay, make every fucking bite of every meal count, because, you know, I fucking barely survived to get here to, you know, give you a good life. Those kids tended to have a much higher propensity towards obesity, like compulsive eating, smoking, diabetes, alcoholism, addictive tendencies, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, whether that is like epigenetics is thought to be from salt secretions that, I guess, trauma, they kind of reflect trauma, and they, like, this trauma seeded into our brain is secreting based on how it changes our behavior itself onto like genome, and you know, kids obviously take on a lot of the traits of, you know, either their parents or the parents before them, you know, even if the parents are absent, there are a lot of biological features that we get. You know, the desire to fuck is a biological feature. You know, this is what makes us humanity and not different races, you know, like we're all kind of, like, trace the lineage all the way back, we all start from the same place. We're all, you know, just humans that have evolved slightly differently, because, like, we lived in respective areas of the world. And, yeah, so, like, you know, stuff like epigenetics, where it's like maybe it's just the way the parents chose to, well, parent their kids, but it could be, like I said, because of these, is it either salt or saline? Well, I guess saline is salt water, so saline secretions. This was a paper I wrote a long time ago, okay? But just look it up. Look it up if you don't fucking believe me.
Because it's undeniable that, say, like, if you have bipolar and your grandfather had bipolar, that was hereditary. I have treatment-resistant major depressive disorder because my grandfather on my dad's side and my grandmother on my mom's side had it. And that is huge in fucking dictating what has transpired throughout my life. And what transpires throughout our lives is, in addition to this sort of, like, look at ourselves as biocomputers. We were born with a certain amount of dispositions and information, like, you know, those phobias of spiders. That's an example of this kind of, let's say just because it sounds fitting, muscle memory. Even though that's not quite what muscle memory means in Jungian psychology, it is a fitting term for what I'm talking about. It is just the stuff we do because it is what every part of our lineage that came before us learned to do throughout their life to survive up until this point. And you know, a lot of people are like, oh, we should be so fucking thankful to that we are gifted the right to live, because our ancestors and, you know, all our family members, the trajectory leading to us, were lucky enough not to die terribly fucking. But then it's like, okay, but like I still didn't choose this. Like, good for them, I guess. But also the shit that almost killed them and gave them, like, you know, terrible issues that, like you know, treatment-resistant major depressive disorder for my grandfather, who was, like, you know, great guy. His name is actually Bud. Like, I'm not even joking. Legally, his name's Bud. Fucking super funny guy. I love him. But apparently, he had a lot of problems when my dad was a lot younger, way before he had me. And it sounds like it was from a place of trauma, and it led to, you know, a lot of alcoholism, womanizing, which, you know, when I was drinking like an alcoholic, I was doing a lot of womanizing, but, you know, unfortunately, he had a family to take care of, so not the best time to be doing that. You know, like, my dad, you know, he worked really hard to become a fucking lawyer. You know, he was working in, like, burger shacks with my fucking grandfather, barely fucking making ends meet in his, like, fucking late 30s and shit. Like, at least I think that's what I remember him telling me. But, you know, like, I was a kid who came from a not rich family, but like well-off family. I'm very fucking blessed in that regard. I do genuinely think I can say that. I'm still angry, kind of, that I was plucked out of blissful non-existence into a life that is plagued by a lot of suffering. Yeah, sure, my own fault. But the destructive behavior I've engaged in has been me at my wit's end, because I have a chronic issue that is just, like, fucking driving me up the wall, and I'm just like, I want to feel some reprieve from this, you know? So, like, I'm not saying, like, all my actions are justifiable, but I think, like, most addiction problems are just, like people treating underlying issues, or, like, fully diagnosed issues that are just not being properly treated. And so they're engaging in addiction. And so this is, like, as to my point, that is completely guiding their life. Like, when I was an addict, you know, my brain was tricked by heroin into thinking I would die if I didn't have it, because it felt like I was dying when I didn't have it. But, like, that was, you know, you tend not to die from heroin addiction alone. Like, you can die from dehydration and stuff like that, but if you take care of yourself, like just even a little bit, you'll probably survive through it. Fentanyl is a whole different fucking beast, and it usually has benzos in it too. Benzos are actually dangerous. But you know, what I'm trying to get at is that if stuff as simple as, you know, mental health issues, pain, chronic pain, you know, any chronic issue could be mental and physical. It tends to be both. It definitely is for me. Because you know, you can't have mental stability if your physical state is compromised constantly. Like I hate to say this, but it is true. I haven't felt like a good feeling. I haven't felt fulfilled in a long time. Despite like I feel doing stuff that like otherwise I would regard as very rewarding, like, you know, helping out in the gardens and stuff. I've had prolonged anhedonia, and maybe this is like, I'm willing to make the concession that maybe if I saw more of the world and you know, didn't have these heavy duty fucking physically addictive drugs, methadone, Valium, both prescription drugs, that I'm trying to get off of, that I fucking hate. I hate so much, and then, you know, really had little choice in being put on methadone specifically at a very young age. You know, I'm willing to concede that maybe I would drop pessimism, but I also have a lot of doubt in that as well. But because I feel numb, like emotionally, and even when it comes to sensation, like tactile, this, like I don't feel it as much as I usually do. Like, you know, I oftentimes like smoke very heavy menthol cigarettes, and you know, I feel like smoking one because it's like, oh, I barely even registered the fact that I smoked a cigarette. But I guess the bright side is that I am kind of, in a weird way, like my ego is stunted because it's not getting that like large influx of sensory stimuli. So it's affording me this kind of perspective where I would almost compare it to being on like just barely a macrodose of LSD, so like 100 micrograms of like legit LSD, where you're like somewhat removed from things, and you can see kind of things analytically in that you are now observant of structures that exist to keep things running with the illusion of harmony. This can be internal or external, or both revelations. And I mean, I would not recommend anhedonia, though. I would recommend LSD to people who would not be adversely affected by it. But I would not recommend, and also, like, you know, very sparing use if you do ever choose to use it. You know, it will fry your brain if you do too much of it. I know people, and I kind of am one of those people a little bit, who, yeah, perfectly sane, but, you know, have HPPD because too much LSD back in the day. You know, dose makes poison sort of thing, right? But you know, in a weird way, I find it like very much an intriguing state to be in, and I'm trying to milk what I can from the state. And as someone who, like, you know, right now, like I have principles, but I like to have a fluid set of principles. Usually my core principles will still remain the same, but they will change a little bit as I grow, as, you know, I learn from other people who have different perspectives. I think that's not a bad thing. I think it's demonized not to have like you know, like a fucking 10 Commandments list of things you definitely believe in. The only thing I really believe in 100% is I can't believe in anything honestly, because I don't know what's just like a trick of the senses. I don't know what is, you know, my biological, my psychological programming based predispositions towards certain beliefs or interpretations of things. Like I think I've expressed before that I think I don't have spiritual experiences like other people do, because and you know, by that I mean like something preternatural, something beyond what the metrics of science can explain. I don't have those experiences in ways that I can explain away, despite having done DMT hundreds of times. I think it's because of my, you know, my neurological hardware. Particularly, you know, it's up for debate right now, kind of what causes depression. It's known that there's a serotonin issue. It was the consensus for a long time that it was serotonin deficiency, just in terms of your brain not producing enough, or like for one reason or another, maybe it is producing a normal amount, but it's not being absorbed, integrated into the brain properly. You know, there's like a common thread for a lot of people who have depression is that they have lower levels of activity in the hippocampus compared to you know, people with, well, brains that don't make them feel like dog shit all the time. You know, the hippocampus is largely responsible for maintaining your neurons, and your neurons are very important because they make our memories. The speed of your hippocampus and its activity is really what determines how many like proteins and necessary I don't know what else neurons sustain themselves on. I think saline, so salt. I think sugar too, but like very, very low doses of sugar. And your GABA A reflects, it impacts the hippocampus a lot. And GABA A is what's affected by alcohol and benzos. It's what makes you feel relaxed, but it's considered an excitatory chemical because its presence allows the hippocampus to essentially like send you know, a care package or whatever to your synapses, to your neurons, and you know, how fast it's moving will ultimately determine how far those things get in your brain. And you know, like higher levels of activity in the neurocampus are typically seen in people who are, well, like above average IQ individuals. I get very weird results on IQ tests. I get high results, I get low results. Like, it really depends on the day that I take it. I think ADD is a big part of that. Like, it just, it goes to show, and also inactivity in the hippocampus is, it's often seen as a precursor to Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's, or just Alzheimer's in general, because it is observed when they put Alzheimer's patients, dementia patients, under an MRI. So yeah, you know, another reason I don't want to fucking live to 100. I think I'd be a fucking vegetable by that point. The thing is, though, I kind of like, I don't think this applies to early onset Alzheimer's at all. I think that's like a deviation or an actual affliction compared to Alzheimer's and dementia. And what I mean by that is, this may sound cold, but I think stuff like Alzheimer's and dementia is nature's way of saying you're living too long. Like, you really don't need the golden years in life, in my opinion. like honestly, if I'm not gonna have any kids if I get 60. Like, you know, fucking the most I'll ever do is fucking adopt. But you know, if I do live to 60, I would love to OD the fuck out of this world on a big ass fucking shot of heroin and fucking cocaine. That's assuming heroin ever becomes a real thing again. I don't want to do it anytime soon, but I'm all for stuff like you know, medically assisted suicide and whatnot. I think the people who do that are very brave, and I think they are kind of getting one over on the Reaper. They're taking their death into their own hands. If I was told I was terminally ill tomorrow, I would be like, hey, set me up for that shit. Put me to fucking sleep. But you know, another reason I bring this up is we all have kind of existential dread, you know, and existential dread I think varies based on your neurochemistry. I have said this before, and I still believe it. I am not, and I think this is true for most people, but they don't quite actualize it. I'm not scared of death itself. I'm scared of any potential pain that may lead to death. So, like, yeah, you know, like, I think that, almost people should be encouraged to, like, legally commit suicide if their life is terrible and they feel like they're a legitimate dredge on the system. You know, have a psych evaluation and all that to make sure they're competent to make a decision, and then fucking let them do it. Let them do it. Like fucking that Futurama episode where they have the suicide booth. You know, like that. I think we should adopt an attitude towards death that isn't like seated in this like biological imperative to fear it, because you know, we're still animals and we have to sustain ourselves, and because we're conscious and that we're aware, you know, again, that's when I say consciousness, that's what I mean. It's our awareness of our situation and our surroundings, not so much like some ethereal signal that's been going throughout time and that like we can't prove whatsoever. No, I mean like just conscious awareness. Okay. So I think yeah, like because you know, going back to what I said way back at the beginning of the video, you know, there was one death in my life that really fucking negatively impacted everyone who was related to this person, as well as, you know, this very beloved individual by her peers and, you know, so on and so forth. And you know, this is very it's interesting to me because my psyche has been admittedly desensitized to death, because I know like 3 dozen fucking people at least who died of fentanyl fucking overdoses, whether they were intending to do it or not. And you know, meanwhile, like this person who's like a family member, so I'm probably predisposed to feel that more than like, you know, just someone I was an acquaintance with. Died in a way that's like not really clear, and I saw the fucking aftershock, the fallout, if you will, of a death, which is grief, and how grief can rob people of life. And I think it's a terrible thing. And like suicide, for example, is something that like when I was suicidal because I was given the misdiagnosis of Huntington's and told I would be wheelchair bound and needing diapers in a year, I truly got to experience the virile nature of suicidal ideations. They like completely like fucking a virus. They invade your thoughts. They incorporate themselves into essentially everything you're thinking about until you're thinking about nothing other than how can I make this as painless as possible. But you know, the question becomes, well, the pain part for me maybe doesn't matter so much when it's about reducing the pain for everyone else. Like I wanted to do it legally, but they're like, no, you can't. You have fucking depression, so you're supposed to have suicidal ideations anyways. And it's like, but I've never had any before this and after this. Like the problem is there's so many consequences to it, but at the same time, like I'm constantly watching like true crime and stuff and hear about some coward going on a fucking shooting spree or whatever, and I hear that like they were considering killing themselves first, and it's like the world would have honestly been better off if that was the case. That sounds cold, but hey, it's like you know, would you rather have a bunch of innocent people with no ties to this person being killed of all demographics, or just this person who was gonna become like, even if they suppressed their homicidal fucking inclinations, they probably would have been a pretty abusive person, caused a lot of suffering with their life. So it's like, at the end of the day, like, we need to somehow overcome these biological imperatives. I think this is like, you know, maybe this is a stretch to say, but I think it's worth considering. But maybe these biological imperatives are what keep us from evolving, you know, like it's a fact that human beings haven't evolved for a while now. Like we've just been in suspended animation, stasis pretty much. Like it's kind of something that confounds a lot of scientists and is largely ascribed to us having the majority of necessities we need. But you know, and that's not to say there aren't behavioral changes, like, you know, we obviously with each generation have a lesser attention span because of the speed of information and well, just the state of society and all that. You know, there's a much bigger correlation I see these days to what would ultimately default to pessimistic or nihilistic beliefs in doomer culture, which, yeah, even though I always have a cigarette in my mouth, I'm not necessarily a fan of, as I don't think it's productive. It's just like, everything sucks, fuck this. When I'm like, hey, yeah, that's true, but maybe we can kind of better our odds a little bit, you know? Maybe we could better the planet. Maybe we could, you know, get people to radically change their mind, and maybe radically, like, change how we interact with nature and how we impact the planet. All that good stuff. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a place where I can perch my phone where it's also charged. It's about to fucking die. I'm gonna be pissed if it does, because I've tried to make a couple of videos now, and they always, for one reason or another, get sabotaged right near the end. But I want to say, I've asked a lot of fucking questions, or I've given a lot of examples here, but what I'm getting down to ultimately at the end of the day is that I think humanity, all over the world, doesn't matter what sector of the world, we need to reevaluate how we do fucking everything, how we see everything. We need to be open to potentials like you know, like us being largely just these phony baloney versions of a self, because really, like you gotta ask yourself, without this notion of you as an individual, how could you remain sane in today's climate? You know, we live in this weird society here in the West where individuality is considered part and parcel with fucking independence. You know, so autonomy, freedom, that sort of thing. But it's like, how much of that is a show, and how much of that is just something we're doing without being fully conscious of doing it? I think these are valid questions, and I think you know we need to reevaluate the way death is shamed, and you know, because the thing is, if people can continue to have like fucking pro-life outlooks on the planet, they are essentially going to perpetuate a lot of fucking suffering, and that's not okay by me, you know. I actually I scoff at pro-life people, you know. These are the people who bomb fucking clinics, who shoot fucking abortionists, Planned Parenthood workers, abortion doctors, whatever. You know, people doing the Lord's work and keeping children who do not need to be born into an environment where they are just like the parent, you know, the majority of the time, and this is an assumption on my part, but the majority of the time, I think people get abortions because they're not ready to be parents, and they don't want to give a kid a life that is like not substantial in the slightest. Not that I even think there is a life that merits the term substantial, because like even if you're like born into the richest family in the world, like, you know, you ever watch Succession? See how fucked up those kids are? You know, like where you're brought up, you're groomed to essentially be as predatory as possible, greedy, malicious, vindictive, you know, just cynical for the sake of being a bitter asshole. You know, a cutthroat, like, you know, Succession, the show, if you don't know, is like largely thought to be inspired by the Murdoch family. Rupert Murdoch, as many of you may know, started a little news story organization called Fox News. Or I don't know if he started it, but he owns it, that's for sure, and he, his views very much align with it. He's a very private person, but you can see the parallels in the show for sure. So yeah, like what I'm getting at is that yeah, like there are people who have pretty shitty upbringings when they're rich, regardless. Not everyone. Some may fucking have lifestyles that seem enviable, but then again, like, you know, look at like the Ty Lopez. Ty Lopez? Is that his fucking name? I don't know. That stupid fucking YouTube grifter dude. I think he just got in jail for a really weird fucking reason. That dude who's like, oh, I read a book every day and I'm impressed on that. He was like, oh yeah, I just skimmed through the pages. Or no, he said he like reads the fucking synopsis on the inside of the fucking desk cover. Like, that's not reading a book, my friend. That's not. It's reading a synopsis, you fucking idiot. The guy who was like, oh, I own fucking 101 Lambos or whatever, and then they were all rented, like, he is obviously not happy. He is a fucking snake. And I'm sure his parents' environment were largely partial to that. I look at Jordan Belfort, fucking the dude from who inspired Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know why Martin Scorsese decided to make a movie on this fucking asshole. But him and his buddies on Wall Street were complete scumbags. Fucking like drug addict, fucking serial adulterers, which again is not something I have a huge problem with, but you're not being honest with your partner about that. Yeah, that's not fucking cool. It's not cool in my book. Debate me. You know, people like that, are, you know, they have a big black hole in them, and they're trying to throw some quaaludes in there, throw some cocaine, some morphines. Like he has that whole fucking monologue at the beginning where he's like, yeah, fucking, I take 14 quaaludes a day, cocaine, cannabis to take the edge off the cocaine, Xanax to take the edge off the cannabis, and he's like proudly saying this, and it's like, holy fuck, dude, I'm surprised the real Jordan Belfort did not die from withdrawals, but I'm sure he's probably still using those drugs since he seems to be making a lot of money off motivational speaking. And his book that his prison fucking cellmate, Tommy Chong, said, hey man, you should like write a book about that. That's pretty crazy. Imagine something like that. But he didn't go to jail. He went to fucking like a retreat. He playing fucking tennis every day and shit, like very low security. Yeah, and so, you know, evil people get away with shit like that, and then, you know, they have kids and they like imbue this stuff in their kids, or media like fucking Wolf of Wall Street makes kids see that type of thing and emulate it, and then their lives become similarly empty, and people around them suffer as a result of their like hard-headed fucking decadence and snobbery and elitism. You know, what I'm getting at is that there are many ways in which you can like cut your own legs out from under you while looking like you're on top of the world, and also fucking like really hurt a lot of people around you if you're like I think even though awareness of the so-called self is like just an illusion of our brain as a way of coping with the fact that we are just another animal in this world that we never really asked to be brought into. You know, we didn't ask to have these features. We didn't ask to have this lineage or whatever. You know, personally, I don't care that much. It sucks to have chronic fucking issues from, you know, like hereditary stuff. But you know, like it wasn't the choice of, you know, my grandfather or my grandmother to have me because of the story. It wasn't their choice either. And yeah, like you know, the short of it is, if we don't be honest to ourselves about why we're unhappy, why we have this great fear of, say, like the uncanny valley. The best explanation I've heard is from Thomas Ligotti on the uncanny valley, which, for those of you who don't know, it's a phobia of things that look almost human. So like, this is people who fear clowns, for example. Like, I think there is like a different name for that, but it is something that falls under like the uncanny valley effect. It's not a diagnosis because it's like a phobia, and it's one of the most perplexing things to scientists. Like, a lot of people say, oh, there must have been something like a shape-shifting predator. Maybe that's like what skinwalkers are and all this shit. Oh, I said the word. I'm fucked now. Maybe that's why fucking we have this fear of mannequins and whatnot, or just find them creepy. We're unnerved around them. I like the philosophical explanation more, which is that it is essentially a way of like maybe the self within ourself, within ourself, within ourself, within ourself, the deepest fucking pit of you know, all these layers of self, which, you know, make the idea contradictory. it's our way of saying there is no real self. There, especially on a surface level, like we look at ourselves and we think, okay, like I'm into this, I'm into that, I support this, I don't support that, that's me. And it's like, when you trace most of those decisions back, they're not things you came to say empirically. They're things you were probably taught and then maybe adjusted to fit your learning style, whatever. So yeah, I'm really saying this emphatically because I think we glorify ourselves too much, and then yeah, like the examples of the people I just brought up, it leads to destructive, negligent behavior, and that's just bad for everyone. And I think like unless humanity could like a beehive, all interact in a way where it's like we're legitimately functioning, making our decisions with the people in mind who are, there as well, but maybe aren't getting the best fucking end of the stick when you tally up, how well someone's doing, how much they're making. Going with the bee metaphor, how much fucking pollen they're bringing back to the hive, and how much honey they're getting as a result, or whatever. There's no way we could do that without being telepathically fucking intertwined, or removing a couple of chromosomes, because and I don't know how true this is, but I've heard that there were vestiges of humans in very, very isolated Australian and African tribes. I don't think they're alive today, which is why I kind of question the validity of this. I learned about this, by the way, through the Tool song 46 and 2, because I was like, these lyrics are interesting. I want to kind of know what it's about. And it's largely inspired by this one psychologist who said that since we have 44 X chromosomes, 2 Y chromosomes, the next step in evolution would be to go to 46, because he says, and I mean, I haven't heard other scientists say this, so I am a little bit skeptical here, as I think anyone should be, but I think there's a cool notion, that, the reason he came to this conclusion was because these tribes who had 42 X chromosomes and 2 Y chromosomes, they didn't have any conception of what being an individual meant. They saw themselves as kind of almost like an animal mindset, where it's like, okay, I'm living kind of a part of a cell here in this ecosystem, and my existence isn't just predicated on eat, fuck, sleep, die. Animals, people like to even fucking ascribe selves to their animals, and it's like, animals just I mean, obviously it varies on their neurological functioning, but these supposed tribes, which I guess no longer exist, they don't see when I'm describing this, I to give you a visual, I bring up how if you ever seen a lion chasing a fucking gazelle, and some Nat Geo fucking or BBC World, his name David Tennant or whatever, doing the voiceover, you see these gazelles fucking dipping, diving, running as fast as they can. Massive fucking monster of a fucking animal is behind it. This apex fucking predator. And once, though, it gets its fucking jaws on them, they just kind of lie down and fucking accept their death, even if it's gonna hurt. Fish, for example, don't have the neurological capacity of feeling pain. That doesn't mean I think they should be put in harvesting scenarios or whatever, where, you know, they just don't get to live a fucking, like, you know, decent life, you know, like fucking essentially breathing each other's shit in because they breathe water and, well, and not technically speaking, but you know what I mean. Yeah, where are they gonna shit if they're all in one, like, fucking crammed into one little aquarium? There's the water. That's worse than, like, walking by an open sewage grate and being like, oh, fucking literally smelling like people's shit. I mean, you are smelling their particles, but you're not, like, it's not like you're fucking railing the fucking log. Ugh. Yeah, like, so the thought, like the song itself, you know, which is not really that relevant to what I'm saying, but I just want to tell you kind of where I stumbled across this information, and it strikes me as something that could be true. How true the reports of those tribes, though, are, I think, is a little flim-flam, wishy-washy in my head. But I totally see that because, yeah, again, the only thing that separates us from animals, which operate through instinct, and that instinct is shaped by their biological imperatives, their evolutionary, you know, whatever that led them up to this state. Really, all that separates us is just this notion of awareness. But the thing is, our awareness is so fucking limited for several reasons. Because A, we can only really process information and reach conclusions based on our senses. We all have the same senses. Yes, we use them differently. We are, like, our levels of competency with some senses vary. Some people don't have the use of any sense, like if you're blind, but then they have, like, heightened fucking hearing because some can echolocate and shit, and, like, actually almost like function better than, like, fully able-bodied people. I think part of that is, you know, having to learn to cope with living in a world that is made for people with, you know, able-bodied senses, you know, able-bodied, quote-unquote, whatever the fuck that means nowadays. I think, yeah, that conscious awareness, which really at the end of the day, all that it, like, really objectively gives us is pain. And, like, and not physically speaking, it could be, like, if you're someone like me, who whose brain turns stress and anxiety into like physical pain. Unless you're someone like me, like, this wouldn't be a physical description, but just knowing you have to put in the 9 to 5, 5 days a week just to get home, like, even if it's like fucking a job you despise, you feel like a corporate fucking puppet, you hate it, there's no passion, there's no love, it's just like, oh, I'm in this cage for the rest of my life. You know, that's why I think a lot of people like to get fucked up on the weekends. You know, I think like people drank their wages a lot more back in the day before we had cell phones and fucking the internet and video games, shit like that. Like, I joke that it's like the world's oldest antidepressant. But like why does that at all make life a gift? Why does that at all make us free? Why do we have to have a car to be able to, like, freely get whatever job we want? Why do we have to have a perfect fucking, I'm using this example because this is from something that pisses me off. I did my fucking PAL license, or I got my PAL license, well, I should have gotten it anyways. I aced my test despite having pneumonia coming on the same day I did it. And I could have, for a day more, being able to fucking get a license to have a handgun. But I don't want a handgun. I just wanted a rifle to do some fucking plinking with. I don't even want to hunt. You know, like, there are places you can go to and pay to just, like, if you pay for the ammo and show them your ID, they'll let you fucking shoot guns. They won't do a background screen on you or anything. If I really wanted to blow my fucking head off, I would just do that, but I wouldn't. If I was gonna kill myself, or like much less risky and painless and, you know, traumatic for everyone around type situation. And also, I don't want to like make more like be conducive to statistics that just like give gun use a bad rap because some people are not responsible enough to own them, in my opinion. But I was denied on the basis of having a fucking mental illness that's like not even something that gives me delusions. I never had psychosis from depression. Some people apparently get it with treatment-resistant major depressive disorder. Like with the amounts of pain and stuff I face on a regular basis these days, I oftentimes will go like 4 nights a week without sleeping, and I will feel nothing except for just like what I can only describe as like the Grim Reaper breathing fucking sharp icicles down my back and out through my fucking toes and fingers, and it's like insanely painful. Like I have to scream in my fucking pillow sometimes. But, you know, I don't go like, oh, I could fucking walk like 10 minutes to a bridge where, like, I think this bridge is like the 3rd most active suicide spot in the world, which means it must be effective. So if I really want to fucking kill myself, I wouldn't use a fucking gun for it. And I honestly don't care that much about owning one because, like, I don't even really want to own one because my friends have them and they like to go shooting and hunting. They can legally take me because if they have a license, they can take someone. But like, yeah, no fucking, because of the system, I am fucking refused, like for life. It's like, to me, it's most frustrating because it feels like discrimination. And you may be laughing to yourself, but I mean, think about it. If you're, you know, say, it's undeniable that black people have had they've had the raw fucking deal out of most demographics in the West over the last fucking, you know, 400, 500 years, whatever. Luckily, we didn't have slavery in Canada. I'm sure there were, like, private slave operations, but it wasn't tolerated here. Like, if someone found out about that, they'd probably lynch the fucking person who owned the slave. That being said, we are far from fucking perfect. We had residential schools, we had, you know, we did have Chinese slaves way back to build a lot of the railroads and shit. My grandfather actually helped out the Japanese population after the fucking World War II internment camps because they lost everything, you know, their homes, their displaced, and they're like, fuck this, we're going back to Japan. And my grandfather was like, whoa, you guys are insanely talented engineers. Give you a living wage, give you your own cuisine, fucking build you whatever you want for a bass. Like, you know, he built a fucking amazing Japanese community, which is a large reason why they stayed in Vancouver. Like Strathcona is, you know, a big heritage area in Vancouver. Except for the area around it, which sometimes comes in. There's a lot of hardcore drug use in that area surrounding it. But it's a beautiful area, a lot of old homes that were mostly owned by Japanese people. A lot of these homes, they were displaced from because of the internment camps during World War II. And you know what? I'm not going to get into the morality of that because Japan had fucking horrible internment camps themselves. And like, the government still denies essentially every war crime they committed pre, during, post-World War II. Like, they continued eugenics after World War II. Like, look it up. Like, only now lawsuits from all these mentally ill people who are forcefully sterilized after Japan signed a treaty, an international treaty, not to fucking do that. Because everyone else was not supposed to do that. Some people still did do that. You know, there's a lot of genocides you don't fucking talk about, unfortunately. Yeah, you know, it's one of those things that only came to light, like, right as the people are dying, like, in, like, their fucking late 80s or early 90s. But, yeah, anyways, like Canada, we have a slightly better fucking, like we were where the slaves would flee to. You know, we're last off on the underground fucking railroad if, you know, they were able to make it that far. And like how black people are fucked over by systems like what you see, like just excellently fucking illustrated in the example of Baltimore in The Wire and The Corner, where it's also Baltimore, empirically based on what the two head writers had experienced, like living with drug dealers, one of them being a cop, one of them living with cops for a year, in a place ravaged by drugs, and where black families were typically, you know, it was parents who became addicts, the kids had to support the family by selling drugs, self-perpetuating cycle, and people go, oh, well, like black people are they do more crime and shit. And it's like kind of like when people are like, fucking Jews are in Hollywood and there's more Jews in banking than anywhere else. It's like, yeah, but there's a reason for that, because they're like an Irish people. This is a shame to me. And like I would, in a weird way, say that I am kind of proudly Irish. I will even defend Ireland's neutrality during World War II. Which, you know, if you really want me to make a video on that, happily. I just don't think anyone would actually care, even though it is interesting. But if you are interested, ask. Yeah, so like, you know, there are a lot of reasons why that behavior persists, and a lot of that is because of like the harsh prison sentences they get compared to like white people especially, and then other demographics. Yeah, you know, prison is kind of the, you know, there's the incarnation of the phrase, you know, putting a pickpocket in a room, master thief. You know, they come out fucking even more hardened as criminals. It's all they fucking, you know, like, so like, yeah, like people are fucked in that way, and they have no choice in the matter. But like, we also have to apply that to so many other things. We have to broaden that. And like, I'm not saying so we can all become victims. I'm saying because like there's nothing productive about like, oh, I'm a victim at the end of the day, other than like typically, like oddly I see this coming from white women the most. They have this guilt complex, and they sort of manufacture like a reason for people to feel bad for them. And I'm not making a sweeping generalization, but like for some reason in Vancouver where I live, there's a lot of new age white women who like read white guilt and now are like fucking acting as if their grandparents owned slaves. Like, you know, the amount of groveling and like I'm sorry, I wore blackface once in fucking high school, and it's just like really, did you do something like that? Did you, like, because you must have had to do something like that, like that level of like pitiful groveling and sucking up to, you know, a minority who maybe just wants to be treated like everyone else, fairly. And it's like, yeah, like white women, there's something incriminating about like the ones who are like, oh, please let me kiss your foot and fucking empty my wallet and say I'm sorry, and like, it's like, okay, you know, when you talk about reparations and stuff like that, that's not the type of thing, in my opinion. I think reparations like should be owed just because of injustices that have been done against certain communities. I think like it shouldn't be something that's just generally done across the board, but like, say like if I don't know if there are any survivors of families that fell victim to the Tuskegee experiment for black people who were very remote, farmers, you know, salt of the earth type people, illiterate, you know, this is like, I'm talking like early 1900s, and told, hey, you want some free vaccinations? That'll keep you from getting sick. You know, you don't have to worry about that TB anymore. this was before the polio vaccine, so I can't say polio, but they did say it was just like gonna keep them immune sick. But they actually injected them with syphilis just to study what would happen to them. If there are any surviving children, they should get some money for that. Just like the people who in Canada, the U.S. government, and our government let this happen. Carried out a lot of MK Ultra experiments under the pretense of like we're curing schizophrenics by giving them high doses of LSD. Okay, sure. No, like it like really fucks some people up, and only now, since the government is starting to acknowledge that, they're starting to fucking sue. These people are starting to sue, and the government's being sued. But will they even live to fucking see the money? And I think there's clauses in civil suits like this where the people, if they die before the proceedings are complete, and they did win, it's not like they're like I'm pretty sure their children don't get the money. We have a similar situation with the one nuclear reactor we've had in Canada ever, I think. I know we're at least like a place that like we're heavily adverse to having nuclear weapons, and I think nuclear reactors as well, because nuclear reactors, as stuff like Chernobyl can show us, are kind of like nuclear bombs if they're not well maintained, and but these things can they can go fucking nuclear, literally, for a variety of reasons. But in any case, we're one of the countries who bowed out of the arms race. But we did have a nuclear reactor that in like the early 50s, I think, and I don't think it was a Chernobyl type, it wasn't an RBK, but it was a very primitive nuclear reactor, and it also wasn't the scale of something like Chernobyl, but there was, I don't think it was a meltdown. I think what happened was, it's been a while since I've looked into this, so I'm sorry if I'm molesting my memories to try and fucking finger a fucking clip of a fucking motor in my brain into oh yeah, it was they're incorrectly disposing of radiation, and so essentially whatever backwash was left over from washing the fucking rinsing, I believe the rods, the coolant or whatever they used. It was something like that. Again, I read this a long time ago. My memory is not the greatest in the world, but I assure you I will get most of the details right. At least check most of the boxes. And so, luckily for people in Canada, this was a very, there's almost secretive in how they placed it, in the middle of fucking nowhere. If you think of the scenery in the movie The Thing, where it's surprisingly, that movie was filmed in California for the most part, and they used a lot of those snow making machines, which is fucking beyond impressive, because those guys are in fucking they're dressed like they're in the Antarctic, and that apparently led to a lot of problems like heat exhaustion and stuff like that. Amazing film. But think of that desolate fucking snow and ice wasteland. That's basically where this place was. So the spill happened, and it did release a bunch of, because I think they were still using either plutonium or uranium, so a bunch of it just pissed out into the surrounding area, and cooled around the reactor, and there was no towns nearby. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a settlement of native people, and they all got impacted by the radiation, and died as a consequence of cancer or whatever, and the government just covered it up. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Canadian government, like most Western governments, is a lot more devious than you may expect. But they were aware that this happened. I believe it happened when there were either very few or no one actually present at the reactor, because there were no deaths reported from inside the reactor. But the people who did this recon, like, they didn't quite know what had happened yet, hence why they were scouting the area out. But yeah, long story short, they were very ill-equipped in the suits they were given. They were given like these rubber hazmat suits with like, I think like iron face masks, and that was about it. You know anything about radiation? Iron's the only thing that is even going to give you a chance of slowing down the rate at which the radiation is traveling. It doesn't stop it all the time, and you need a lot to stop it. You need, I think, like half a meter. Imagine wearing half a meter of like an iron sheet on your entire body. It'd be like one of those old-fashioned scuba suits, except those are made out of like copper or bronze or whatever. Yeah, that's my idea of terrifying, being one of those things dropped into the fucking ocean. And I think they would like slowly lower them down with ropes, which I'm sure broke a lot of the time. Can you imagine that? You're just on the ocean floor, like, okay, I'm my ocean man, take me by the hand, lead me through the land. Yeah, terrifying nightmare, I feel. But anyways, yeah, these guys, they all got, long story short, they all got fucking radiation sickness. I think the place was just like sealed off, and the government kind of covered it up, and I think like blackmailed most of the people who were adversely affected, gave them a cover story, said, you don't use this, we'll fuck your lives. And like, yeah, it wasn't until just recently that the government acknowledged it, and this was about a year ago, and the families were trying to sue, but there was like 3 people who were still alive, and they were like 90, 92, and they all died before it was over, so no one got any money. And yeah, like that's like now what Canada's doing with MK Ultra. So many governments do this, and like, you know, I can't help but think of most countries and think of them synonymously with the government that essentially, well, makes rules and enforces them. Well, to varying degrees. Some countries don't enforce rules as much as others. Some enforce them more than others. But yeah, like nations, and like, I don't know, ever since I was a kid, I was like, I don't really care about hockey. I kind of find it boring to watch, actually. It's kind of fun to play, but it was mostly fun for me because I got to slam the kids who bullied me fucking in the locker rooms and off the rink into the fucking walls. Spent most games in the fucking penalty box, but I didn't give a fuck. Those kids are fucking assholes. All preppy fucking like rich kids, fucking their dads would fucking get them whatever position they wanted, just donating more money. That being said, I don't regret playing hockey, but it wasn't my idea of fun. I'll put it that way. Watching hockey, I found boring as fuck. And I remember once I started playing my Game Boy Color, and it like really pissed off the people around me. I was like 6, and they were like fucking like mad and like swearing at a fucking 6-year-old for being bored at a fucking Canucks game. Like, what is with that weird zeal towards sports? It's like I use sports a lot as an example because it's like, you are considered kind of an outsider or a renegade if you go against the grain with sports and support a team that isn't local to your city or whatever. This is becoming more lax with the internet and the proliferation of information being like much more broad. But like, Yeah, I've seen people like borderline like I thought they were gonna get like fucking lynched in the parking lot for like showing up to a fucking baseball game where we have a fucking baseball team that's like not even pro, and like they were supporting the other team, and like these people were from like Alberta or some shit. Anyways, like I don't get it. I don't fucking get that. Like it's like everything I've described. It is an example of deterministic zeal that is like thought by the person to reflect who they are as an individual, and it's them exercising their freedom to go out and support this group they're told to support because they're born there. Like, this is what I mean. We don't have much control at the end of the day over our lives, and I think we seriously need to reevaluate how honest we are about that. Lest we all destroy the fucking planet and each other in flames because we're all too fucking like self-absorbed and greedy and just ethically retarded because we let evolution run the fucking show for us. We let fucking society tell us what need to be, or we let family decide who's truly close to us just because we happen to be born in one family or another. Like, I'm sorry, but if you are a proponent of these systems, I don't blame you, because I don't think you had much choice in the matter. If you're a fan of the Canucks, which is our local hockey team, like essentially all our sports teams, and I'm probably gonna piss off a few people from Vancouver by saying this, but I don't care because it's how I actually feel. You know, going with the team. Pretty sure I feel. I think I feel. It at least feels like I feel it. Anyways, I saw. It's actually this is kind of fucking cool. I was banging my ex on a hill, like overlooking the city during the riots, and it was just like big ass fucking mushroom cloud of smoke. But like people were calling us and like they're flipping over cars and fucking setting them on fire. And I'm like, damn it, why? And, like, you can look up fucking footage from this shit. It was violent. Like, these people were covered in blood, and like these poor like fucking minimum wage workers like London drugs and shit are like trying to fight them off with fire extinguishers, and they're coming at them with hockey sticks and bloody mannequin legs and shit, which led to like we've had 2 of these riots that I know of since the 90s, and I fucking like I'm disgraced to be Canadian when I hear shit like that. Mind you, like the only good thing about being a Canadian is that we have more freedom than the majority of the world. You know, in my opinion, we have more freedom in terms of the idea of freedom and just better treatment than the majority of the world. I would be lying if I said otherwise, but at the same time, we are also being duplicitously fucked over all the time, and we don't really talk about it anywhere near as much as we should, because we're just like, oh, we're so grateful to only have first world problems, and it's like, yo, we're still fucking locking up people forcibly in mental health institutions, forcing them to do electroshock therapy. Like, some people, yeah, they need it, but like those are extreme cases. Like we are like essentially imprisoning people because they have neurochemical deficiencies, and like letting the profit margin of pharmaceuticals dictate treatment more than what's right, what is going to serve this individual the best. Because contrary to like the Simpsons depiction of Canadian healthcare, where it's like, oh, everything's free, let me just scoop these fucking like pills into a bag like they're fucking candy. No, we don't get free medication. If you're on disability like I am, you get some drugs that are available in generic form, but yeah, that's a completely different story than your average John, Jane, whatever. You know, most people have to pay for it, and most people would also say they're probably thankful for having the free healthcare we do, because, like, yeah, I guess you can perpetuate your life if you go to the hospital when you're having a heart attack. Yeah, you also waste a lot of time, because the majority of heart attacks are not actual heart attacks, or reported heart attacks, I should say. They're actually like extreme gastric reflux, or like, you know, people oftentimes will sprain something in their back here, and it feels like their heart is having a hell of a time, but it's not true. And yeah, it's like, maybe, like, who knows how many people died fucking waiting for you to get, like, you know, this illusion of a heart attack fucking ruled out. And, you know, this ties in to the theme of this video, which is, yeah, we, fucking trying to think the line from True Detective. It's like, we have to be honest with each other about our mutual illusions, something like that. Which, you know, that show True Detective season 1, the only season that was, like, really fucking good. It heavily plagiarized Conspiracy Against the Human Race. It's actually kind of sad now, because I used to really like that show. That show, in a weird way, was what got me into pessimism in books like Conspiracy Against the Human Race, or at least helped me realize, like, that there was a philosophy that reflected how I view the world. I still, again, I hold out. Like, I really hope I'm fucking wrong. I really do. But like I am a proponent of Robert N. Wilson's maybe logic. I don't, like, again, the only thing I can truly say is true is that I don't know if anything's real. I think that's all anyone can really say, honestly. I think we can still make deductions, logical inferences, but, like, yeah, even those deductions and inferences in, like, the most scientifically minded people, aka the most autistic, no, I'm just saying, I just watched Oppenheimer, and the weird amount of historical inaccuracies in that movie, because I knew his story very well, because the same thing that happened to him was, like, basically what they did to Jack Parsons, except Jack Parsons fucking died as a result. I think Robert Oppenheimer died because of the stress that unleashing the atomic bomb, which I think was inevitable anyways, onto the public, and you know, the subsequent harassment and essentially like shameless you know, character defamation and stuff he went through. I think he was even prosecuted for, like, flirting with communism or whatever. You know, I thought it was the go-to thing to, like, for the Allies to purge their fucking ranks of, like, the people who did the actual work for them during World War II, and then, like, just, like, be like, oh, fuck it, we'll just, like, replace them with fucking Nazis, the people we were, like, supposed to be fighting the whole time. Operation Paperclip, fucking look it up. Werner von Braun, fucking Jack Parsons, Robert Oppenheimer's fucking #1 enemy, like, like, he essentially formed NASA out of Jack Parsons' company, the JPL laboratory, or, well, not company, but military-funded project. Anyways, this video is going on for a long time, but I just, like, really want to fucking illustrate that I think there's a lot in society, like religion is kind of the perfect example of this, in my opinion. Even stuff like Buddhism, which I'm much more tolerant of. And there's nothing wrong with being intolerant of most monotheistic religions, because they're intolerant of everyone themselves, so, you know, fuck them, whatever. But yeah, like, even Buddhism is, like, inherently contradictory, because it is all about finding nirvana, by shedding your impulses, which is like I think there's more truth to Buddhism in that it reveals the untruths that kind of make up the bricks that form our idea of a solid world. Most of us know by now that, when I'm doing that, I am mostly hitting empty space, but atoms are whizzing around so fast that it gives the illusion of being solid. And I think it's foolish to fully like submit yourself to anything that is just a belief that was sort of passed down to you, that you inherited. And I'm talking about beliefs. I'm not talking about hereditary mental illnesses or whatever, because mental illnesses impair your ability to make decisions. I think we just have to bite a big existential bullet and tell ourselves, look, hey, it's kind of cool having this collage of an idea that I say is, hey, that's me. Like, the human brain is fucking, if it's capable of that, it's capable of simulating paranormal phenomenon to try to communicate a point to you almost like subconsciously. This is very much what Jung talks about. And Jung, I've actually I've had a bit of a falling out with Jung because I believe he probably was friends with Nietzsche, but I believe he also did rip off a lot of Nietzsche stuff. But going back to what I was saying, like, beyond how behavior can be affected by epigenetics, behavior, I think, can more definitively be explained by your upbringing. Because, it's true what they say, a child is like a sponge. They absorb all this fucking information because they're trying to figure out what type of person they are, who they are, yada yada, what they gotta do to survive. And maybe we don't have to all fucking kill ourselves, but do we have to all keep procreating? And because some people like to say that being a mother is the best job in the world. They also say it's the hardest job in the world. I'm more inclined to believe the second. I also am inclined to entertain what Bill Burr says about that. If you don't fucking know what I'm talking about, I'm not even going to get into it. Just search up Bill Burr and motherhood. It's pretty funny, but I do believe it is a hard job to be a mother. Probably more so than a father, because the father doesn't have to carry the child and give birth to it. Doesn't have to fucking drop a load inside the chick and hope that it fertilizes the eggs. It completely derails your life. And I fucking hate seeing people I know, whether it be through family, through just social circles, whatever they be like, oh man, I'm gonna fucking, I may not have my shit sorted out, but once I have this kid, my life's gonna have me in. And then it doesn't, and it crushes them, and consequently fucking crushes the kid. And like I said, grief, which is pain, in my opinion, it has this fallout effect. If you're not familiar with fallout, which if you're at all scared of nuclear weapons, you really should be, because it is worse than any other part of a nuclear blast. A shockwave, a whiplash, if you will, anything where, say someone tried to have a kid and the kid died, stillborn, and they had already come up with a name. Oh, it's a girl, we're gonna give her these colors, and this is gonna be her favorite color, and this is her room, we built her crib. They've already developed an idea of a self they're gonna fucking glue on to that blank slate when it comes out. But it comes out dead. And all that planning into who this person is going to be. It, in my opinion, is a projection of who they want to be themselves. And this is what I'm talking about when I say that it's absurd to say that the self can exist in like one place. No. Like, if the self does exist, we have to concede that there are so many layers, so many like selves that we put out there through various refractions and hope they come out in a way that, like, you know, maybe affects someone's behavior, so their behavior parallels our own qualities more and feel more familiar and grounded as a result, even if it's to that person's detriment. And, you know, like, internally we have selves, yeah, it makes the whole thing absurd, because when you really think about it, at least in my opinion, I strongly believe that it is very absurd. At the same time, I'm not saying be a fucking shitty person, because if you need the idea of being an individual separate from everyone else to be a good person, frankly, brother, you have to shit. Kind of paraphrased True Detective. I changed that a little bit, but that's okay, because Nick Pizzolatto, the show's writer, not just paraphrased, but full on like verbatim ripped off lines from Conspiracy Against Human Race. But yeah, we have to ask ourselves this question posed by the book: are we fucking puppets? Are we puppets who are the result of someone acting either through biological impulses or I guess compulsions, basically, to procreate, or you know, the motivation for having children to extend their own lives. One thing we all have in common is we're born and we die. It's like the two things are certain in life: death and taxes. You know. But in a weird way, when you think about it on a psychological level, I think the reason people procreate is because they want to have essentially an extension of themselves out there. An extension of themselves that carries on who they are throughout the years. Which is why, if you do have a child, you probably shouldn't be a shit to them. Because if you are, you're probably acting from a place of perceived selfishness. Like, me, fuck them. And this child fucked my life up. And it's like, well, why did you have them? Even, like, accidental pregnancies and stuff, it's so easy to be avoided. Like, I have never used a condom in my life. I've slept with at least 17 women and 3 men. I stopped counting a while ago, but you know, I've taken a hiatus from having sex because prostatitis made sex painful for me. Trust me, it hurts to fucking have to turn people down sometimes, but I don't pursue it, and it doesn't drive me fucking crazy. So I have real sympathy for fucking like incels who are like, oh, I'm involved in it, and it's like, I have an actual medical condition. I have literally no choice in the matter. I am faced with the ramification of pain when seeking pleasure, and it's like the pain is worse than the pleasure. So, you know, I have no choice in it, no matter. But you know whose fault it isn't? Women. Not at all. Not the slightest. Not in the fucking slightest. If anything, anyone's at fault. It's myself. For maybe somehow adversely affecting my prostate by drugs, but I don't know. That might even be a stretch. I think it's more so an extension of the chronic issues I have, which are the result of a variety of things. But yeah, at the end of the day, there are a lot of models and maps I sound like Jordan Peterson in the verbiage I'm using right now, nomenclature, if you will. But yeah, there are designs that are meant to induce a sense of familiarity in reality. And if you deny that, I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with it. And I think the more we come to terms with this, and the more we are honest with ourselves and the people around us, that we're not the center of the fucking universe. You know, we should be beyond that by now. The world is not going to get better, and I think, you know, to be perfectly frank, I don't know if the world can get better by this point. Like, just feeling how fucking hot it is outside, this is a noticeable trajectory. Every summer, it is fucking, the weather is all over the place, and the heat is like, holy fuck, I feel like I'm bugged under a magnifying glass right now. I don't know if there is any going back. If there is, we have to fucking take the fight to the corporations and the institutions that are perpetuating lies such as, you know, oh, it's the public who's at fault for this, which there is something to be said for our own accountability, but yeah, recycling and using less water and like, you know, eco-friendly light bulb are not the end-all be-all fucking, that's just a way of diverting you that BP oil like paid for just to like exploit your guilt and make you feel like a piece of shit for not being eco-friendly. It's true. It's fucking true. Like, again, if you don't believe me, fucking look it up. But we also, I also believe that a lot of our misery comes from stress and anxiety. And stress and anxiety comes from our great ancestors. Like back when we looked like fucking lemurs and shit. When we were prey in a world of predators. We needed that to give us like adrenaline and to be like on guard. But like when we've gotten to a place in society where most of our needs are met, stress and anxiety takes some very weird forms, and stuff like PTSD is constantly changing, not just because of like how, say, for example, the DSM may define it, but it is changing the way it affects people and the way it takes its fucking awful shape. And by PTSD, I'm just gonna refer to, because, you know, it is a far-reaching kind of diagnosis at this point, and I think everyone probably has some degree of PTSD, but it's like you've experienced something so awful that it got past all psychological fucking attempts to deflect and divert and whatever, deny, doubt. Those things will come after, but, you know, your brain was so overloaded by how awful the thing you were experiencing was that it dissociated, and every time you experience something that triggers that in the future, which is, as I said, those psychological reactions that you would think would come up while it's happening, but aren't, because you're completely fucking dissociated, as like a way of your brain trying to preserve its sanity, but in a roundabout way, actually severely impacting it. You know, like I hear of people who like get schizophrenia after like trauma in their life. Like, granted, these are people who probably would have gotten schizophrenia at some point, but like maybe 20 years after something like a tragic death in the family may have taken it. Sad. But your brain will do anything to ensure that doesn't happen again. So it's constantly like overanalyzing your environment for something that could give you a hint about what led to that happening and prevent it. And so it'll go, and then when it gets triggered and it thinks that thing is happening, it'll, you know, all your cognizance, your awareness out the window. Fucking, it's just dissociation, fight or flight, survival, do or die time. Like, yes, I know what I'm describing is kind of like a full-on like Vietnam flashback, but yeah, there are varying degrees of PTSD. But it's an example of how I think stress and anxiety, and yeah, if you're sexually assaulted or you like experience firefights in the military, like, yeah, I can see why that would fuck you up. I've experienced not quite like that extreme, but I've experienced similar such stuff, or such things that have fucked me up. And I get it. I don't get because I don't think I have trauma severe enough, mental trauma, anyways, psychological trauma, sorry, to completely derail my life. I've got enough other chronic issues doing that for me. I'm sure they play some role, but like that again is like our brains are like these weird ass lock boxes that have this like complexity that science like barely understands. You obviously like, you know, can't cut a brain open and fucking look at it while someone's still alive. You know, there wouldn't be much left to that person by the time they got out, if they got out. So yeah, it's very limited. I've done, I think, like verging on the maximum amount of MRIs you're supposed to get done in your life. Fortunately, none of them really told my various teams very much, but they only still like even these giant magnet things that, you know, make it sound like the world's fucking ending, or this thing's gonna explode while you're in it, like the whole thing's shaking, like, you know, there's a reason they give you like a fucking Xanax or something before they put you in there. It's terrifying, but in any case, like that still only renders like a surface level view of the electronic activity in your brain. So the specificity only goes so far. But yeah, just going back to the PTSD sample, I think that is, yet again, like I'm trying to build you a fucking case here, in case you are not convinced already, that the majority of our psyche and our functions are just not really us as much as we want to believe they are. With that being said, that doesn't mean fuck it, human and like leading a good life doesn't matter anymore. No. Even though I hate shit like the social contract, like, oh, support this hockey team, all that, I still also am obliged, even though I hate this fucking city I spent my entire life and chained to because of fucking prescription chemical drugs that are physically addictive, and I would fucking die without, so I can't stray very far. Like, there's just so much about living in a city that it really causes issues for people, and you know, like, very few people find answers, and like, yeah, I see why. Well, I know because I was there, but I see why addictive tendencies take form in some people. Oh yeah, I wanted to say, because I think I did finish my expounding on how the uncanny valley effect is our brain's way of trying to come to terms with, and this is crazy, like, think about this, this is crazy. If this is true, that our brain takes something that is made to look like a human but isn't quite human and feels fucking deeply unnerved because of it, and the reason why that's happening isn't because we were being hunted by giants or anything, which, hey, maybe we were, maybe the earth is hollow, I don't know, I haven't been there. I haven't been to the pyramids of Giza either. I mean, the universe could have been created yesterday, for all I fucking know. There are many questions where we cannot fucking prove or disprove ever, I think. And that doesn't mean they're right. It just means, hey, that is an interesting little challenge. But anyways, yeah, so the fact that, people are, like, going so far as to say, like, oh, like, skinwalkers and wendigos and stuff like Sasquatch, which, for you Americans, Bigfoot, like, that's all, like, the type of thing responsible for the uncanny valley. Something that seems human, seems somewhat familiar, but it isn't familiar enough for us to be comfortable around it. Well, I am less inclined to believe the paranormal explanation, even though I am not inclined to wholly disbelieve it either. I think I kind of have a theory on, all these humanoid creature, shapeshifter sightings that have come out of recent years. But I won't get into that here because that's, this is a long enough video as it is. Yeah, my thesis is that there's part of us which realizes that our brains are projecting this, like, cookie cutter version of ourselves, and that is something our brain does not like to think about. So it relegates that fear, like our brain relegating itself to a state of dissociation, throwing all reason out the window when having an extreme PTSD response, to, oh, well, what if fucking shapeshifters were hunting us at some point in history, Like, it's kind of wild, and I really hope that, I doubt anyone stuck around for this long, but I wanted to fucking back my case as hard as I can for my argument that there are structures, many of them cultural, many of them tradition, part and parcel, nationalistic in nature, that are animalistic in nature, and we are animals. I'm not an anthropocentrist, don't get me wrong, and maybe we are a little overrated compared to how we like to think of ourselves, and maybe we should like open up the discussion a little bit on how to if we could prove definitively the universe was a simulation, does that mean we should alter how we behave in it, unless it's proven that doing a certain something can get you more fucking points or whatever. I don't know, get you an Easter egg in this grand simulation. I'm joking, by the way. Simulation theory is again one of those things you can't prove or disprove. And a lot of what I'm saying, you can't prove or disprove. So that's why I'm trying to back it as much as I can with examples of truly baffling mysteries and enigmas posed to us. I think, like with the simulation theory, I don't think realizing all these elements of this argument first, maybe one way of describing it is maybe there's less us, less you, less they, them, whatever, and more kind of like we're here and we have at least the illusion of being able to do the ethical thing and to take care of ourselves and to be decent human beings, not just to each other but to nature, to ourselves. All these things, even if they're illusory, we're still convinced we are capable of doing, so should continue to try to do. And we should stop walling ourselves off from nature, because that's where stress and anxiety go bananas, because there is no outlet for these sensations that are essentially a splashback of our brain's fucking fundamental reptilian brain desire to keep ourselves safe from predators. And I think you see this sublimated into dangerous like ways of parenting and stuff like that, like the stranger danger shit. But there is room for teaching your kids to be careful, but like not paranoid of every fucking person on the planet. They will never become independent person if that's how you fucking parent them. Be fucking terrified of everyone. Like just be rational. Tell them to look out for warning signs, how to get help or whatever. I'm not a parent, so I'm not one to give parenting advice. In any case, I'm not saying it. So I just really want to emphasize, this isn't a ticket to be a bad person. This is a ticket for us to reevaluate everything that is built up to this point. All the fucking civilizations that people say were so fucking grand and so admirable. Oh my god, look at what Rome was able to do, embrace that fucking architecture and philosophy and art. Dude, okay. The philosophers in Greece, I believe it was, who's one to search from a fucking, anyways, I would remember his name any other fucking day but today, obviously. This always happens. This is your brain on ADD. Literally sparked a fucking chain reaction of horrible misogyny that was in a roundabout way kind of responsible for stuff like the witch trials, and there's a very good video on this. It's by Disturbing History, called The History of Hysteria, and hysteria was essentially what they would slap women with, not but I mean actually with this diagnosis they probably would have preferred a slap, because they doctors would legit crank up dildos. This is why douches are a thing. I'm not even fucking joking. Hysteria. Fucking look up Disturbing History of Hysteria. His video's very good because he goes back all the way to this philosopher who thought that, and he had kind of good intentions when saying this, that women were kind and different than men, but the reason why was because their wombs like to take the walk around their organs, or why this is what his way of saying, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. So, yeah, I'm sure you know how the rest goes. But yeah, his theory was that the uterus goes on a little tap dance through their organs, and that is why they have menstrual issues. So, of course, that got co-opted by the church to, actually, I'm not even fucking kidding you, exercise women's vaginas. And I mean in both ways. One, for demons. B, with a douche or a crank up dildo, because for a while it was actually up until the 60s, some places were still doing this, like mental institutions. Hysteria wasn't removed from the DSM until the 60s, which is astonishing to me, because it was essentially oh, you're not being a perfect housewife. My wife has hysteria, I'll lock her up. Pretty fucked up, if you ask me. And they were wrong about stuff like that, like legit scientists were wrong about stuff like that. There's a lot we're probably wrong about right now, but we think we fucking know better than they did back then. But yeah, they thought doctors were doing this. This is where dildos came from. They'd crank up dildos, and they said giving a woman an orgasm would help with their hysteria. So they're basically doing this fucked up, I would call it rape, with inanimate objects. Or I guess they're animals. Oh my god, I don't even want to think about that too much. But yeah, case in point, we get a lot wrong. What if we have a wrong idea about just about everything in a way that's meant to cope with the fact that we're not in the right? Anyways, this has been a way fucking long video compared to what I expected. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging around. I was actually gonna just like talk for a bit and then read a Thomas Ligotti story. But me being fucking me, I was like, okay, this is something I've been thinking about a lot, and I think it's really important. And like anything that I think and that I regard as important, I feel like I have to prove. I don't think you can prove anything beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt, as much as fucking possible. And I hope I gave you some good examples of just, yeah, how we are fragments assembled to paint pictures. And, you know, our perspective paints pictures of shit all around us. We could be a brain in the vat, floating through the universe, being just pumped full of sensory stimuli for all we know. Like, for all we fucking know. But, anyways, I'm surviving. So, like, I'm still fucking skinny because, like, you know, fucking my body has been shedding a lot of nutrients and shit. But I still fucking work out 2 hours a day, goddammit. I have gone from, like, losing 10 pounds, like, fucking gaining it back and shit. I think I'm, like, 145 now, which is really fucking light for someone who's 6'3". I was 150, like, a week ago. So, like, I have to do a lot of fucking work to keep any amount of muscle on me. And look at that, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, you know, my body does not hold on to fat. I believe I have anabolism issues. I've been catering my exercise regime and my diet to try to cater to cater. Sorry, I'm now getting tired. I've been talking for so long. I've been getting such fucking little sleep these days. Cater to that issue with my metabolism, because yes, I don't really get fat even if I eat a lot, and I've been eating a lot because of the amount of exercise I've been doing, and the amount, again, of just like my body having a really bad time with all the shit that's going on in terms of health issues. But I don't hold on to fat, and people are like, that must be great. And it's like, yeah, but I also have to eat like twice as much as most people, or I just lose weight, like I drop it really fucking fast. And I fucking work my ass off to try to get muscles, and like, this is fucking it. I still look like I'm a fucking I'm shooting coke dawn to dusk. Like, yeah, sucks. But it's rewarding to me because I know what fucking work I put in for it, and I'm not gonna do fucking at least my first hour of workout right now. So, without further ado, because I don't want to fucking end up just digressing and going into another round, making this video 3 fucking hours. Yeah, next time I'm going to read, I'm going to make sure I talk for no more than 10 minutes, and I'm going to read you, I guarantee you, one of the scariest fucking stories you've ever heard, if not the scariest. When I heard this, someone read it on YouTube, I was fucking taken aback. This is a short story by Thomas Ligotti. I've talked about his nonfiction book a lot, but I've never read any of his short stories, and they are fucking great. I would say I enjoy his stuff more than Lovecraft. I think it's more creative. It's a lot darker, and, you know, his book, and this is a good thing, like, I think even though ideological views, principles, whatever you want to call them, should be somewhat fluid, it is good to have consistent views. Like, unless you are challenged with information that might make you want to consider changing them, which you should be open to, in my opinion. I try to be. His stories are essentially like fictional realizations of the themes in Conspiracy Against the Human Race. So I think it would be very interesting, because I found it interesting reading that book first, and then being like, I know what he's saying here through the allegory, to read you one of the stories. This one is very surreal. It's called Nightmare Network. I think I said that. It's a fucking phenomenal, closest thing to a novel he's written when it comes to fiction, called My Work Is Not Yet Done. There's 3 stories that in a way are kind of connected because they're all like corporate horror. I haven't read the first one, but I've heard audiobooks of the last 2 because his stuff is really hard to find, and they are fucking very good. Nightmare Network is like, I get chills fucking thinking about it. So yeah, put that in your pipe and fucking smoke on it. I'm gonna smoke another joint. I'm gonna do some fucking exercise. Ciao. Yeah. Anyways, I'm still alive. I'll try to keep uploading. It's just very hard to find motivation when you're like this fucking sickly shit. Anyways, keep it real, folks. And hey, you know what? I'm kind of going stir crazy, so any of you want to have a discussion about fucking anything, drop a comment. I don't care if it's related to the video or not. Okay. Yeah.